Just heard the president speaking to major news, both from a national scale, but in California. He announced the death of seven-term Congressman Doug LaMalfa, a Republican out of California, 65 years old. At this time, the reports show that it's unknown what the cause of death has been. But you heard the president speak to not only his impact in the state, but what it could potentially mean nationally, as he says it does now reduce the majority that Republicans have in the House. Okay, we actually have two people who can speak to the significance of this loss in Congress right now. We have our executive producer here for 13 News Now, Samantha Spinacci, who is here. But Samantha worked in Sacramento previously, and she has on the phone with her anchor Alex Bell from ABC 10 there, also who has done extensive reporting on Congressman LaMalfa. So first I'll say thank you, Samantha, for coming in. And Alex, if you can hear me, thank you for joining us over the phone. So I want to start by saying we don't know what the cause is officially for LaMalfa's death, but are you surprised hearing about his passing?
Yeah, I think for us here in Sacramento, this was quite shocking. We hadn't heard anything in terms of him being sick or having any health issues. And I was just with him on his ranch to speak to him about Proposition 50 and the impact specifically to his district, because his district was one of three that we were heavily watching in terms of flipping Democratic. And I spent the whole day with him, walked around town, and I didn't get any indication that he was sick or something was wrong, and nothing was mentioned by him or his family, or even meeting some of the people that worked on his farm there.
So 7 terms. He had been in that seat for quite some time. Tell us a little bit about his popularity there and what was going on with that seat here recently. It sounds like obviously he had quite the support in the community, or was his seat even up for grabs at any point?
Well, here in Northern California, Doug LaMalfa, especially for the people in Congressional District 1, I would say that he is more than a congressman. Mm-hmm. This area in Northern California is very, very rural. There's a lot of farming production that happens, especially for our rice fields, and that's what LaMalfa and his family have done for generations, is own rice fields to this day. When I said that I was up in his ranch at the end of last year, around October-ish, that's what he was doing, was showing me his rice field, showing me how rice is grown and how they get it to our tables. And we obviously spent a lot of time just in District 1 in Richvale and Oroville, in Chico. And we talked to a lot of people on the street, and it was very difficult to find someone who didn't love Doug LaMalfa. And I use the word love because these constituents, these people that live here, they felt as, he wasn't just a congressman, he was a farmer. He was one of them. You always saw him in flannel. Sam can attest to this.
Yes.
Every time we did an interview with him, he was always in flannel. We were trying to, get him, and his team would say, hold on, he's on the ranch. We got to have him come over, These people, and Sam, I think you can speak to this too, they loved him more than a congressman. They truly felt like he was one of them, and he's lived in the area decades and farmed in the area. And I think people had a very distinct love for him because of that.
I think, coming into Sacramento, me moving there was kind of like a name that everyone just knew off the bat. It was like Doug LaMalfa. Like, he was a part of Northern California where I don't think, like you said, he's been there for many terms, consecutive terms. People knew him in the area. It wasn't like his seat was heavily contested. And if it was, there wasn't, a close race in a lot of those years. So he's a big name, and I think I gasped out loud when I saw this news, just because we've interviewed him, we've talked to him. We did a special last year about the state of the insurance crisis in California, and he was a big topic about that because of wildfires, which I know a wildfire just happened late last year that was in his district that impacted a lot of people that live there. So home insurance is a big topic that he would talk about as well. I think it's very shocking.
I want to turn now to the impact here nationally, even beyond just there in California. The president speaking today and saying that House Speaker Mike Johnson sometimes can't be as tough because he only had a 3-majority lead in the House, and obviously with LaMalfa's passing, that reduces by 1. You would imagine at this point, a big conversation in who has power in the House has been all of this fight to redistrict all of the seats across the country. California, big with that. I'm looking at you guys' reporting in ABC 10 from the fall. LaMalfa was very adamant and vocal against that push to change the districts in California. Can you talk to his significance in that fight? And was his seat one of the ones that could potentially have been redrawn?
Yeah, so we spent a lot of time in his district specifically, because if you think of, California, his district was really at the top of the state. We're talking about the California-Oregon border, getting down to, closer to where we are in Sacramento. It's kind of hard to explain, but just map-wise, if you think about the top of the state. And then there's areas like Richvale, Willows, Durham, and Chico that really encompass his area. So it's a very large area when you look at the map. He's been in that district for a really long time. When I went there, a lot of people, especially in the rural areas, were like, look, we don't want our representation to change. When you get a little bit more inland to areas like Chico, a little bit more suburban and less rural, there were, quite a number of people that are like, look, we're ready for a change. And so even when I interviewed him, it's interesting. He told me there's about 30% of voters in his district that might be ready for new representation, but he was adamant that his focus remains on, making policies that benefit everyone in his district. And I would say last year he really got a lot of heat at a lot of the town halls that he was a part of. A lot of people had questions. A lot of people weren't happy. But on the flip side, there were a lot of people that do really like the job that he did in his district. All that to say is, since Proposition 50 was announced, he was definitely adamantly against it. He thought that this was not going to be beneficial, not only to his party, but for the reflection of the people that live in his community. He didn't feel that a Democrat could come in and run it the way that he could. He didn't feel that people, specifically Democrats, could understand the people that live there and, their experiences, what they go through, the policies, whether it be agriculture or water, that they weren't going to understand the land there and how to operate it. And so we did speak to a few people that jumped into the race, one being Audrey Denny out of Chico. We spent a lot of time with her. I would say the biggest name that has jumped in the race since Proposition 50 has passed would be Mike McGuire. This is former, as of yesterday, the Senate President Pro Tem Mike McGuire, who's also been in office for a very long time. He launched his announcement at the end of last year around November. And so I really think you're going to see a lot more Democrats potentially pop up for this seat, given now the very unfortunate circumstances.
Again, you're listening to Alex Bell, ABC 10 there in Sacramento, and then our executive producer here at 13 News Now, Samantha Spinacci. I think my last question to you, again, thank you for being so gracious with your time here on the dot, is as you're going through the next few hours reporting on this, what are some of the key questions that you're going to be trying to figure out and get answered upon hearing this news?
For me, to be 100% honest, my first initial thought when I saw the news, Sam and I have worked very closely with his team. Mm-hmm. I don't think that I have any questions. I think it's more reaching out to his team. And, I met his son at the ranch, and his family was just so kind and so welcoming and let us go anywhere on the ranch, ask him any question. I mean, we were there for over 9 hours. And even just days spending time in the town. Mm-hmm. I think for me as a journalist, this is a time where there aren't actually any questions to ask. It's just letting his team know. And this would be for anybody on any side of the aisle, letting them know that I'm very sorry for their loss.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate because his team has been with him, I would say, for almost his entire tenure. Like, his team were by phone, by email. It's a loss for the community too, because like Alex has said, like, he is a farmer up there. He does have like a big impact where it's like a very close knit. Yes, this has an impact politically, but it's a life loss, and it's a significant life loss for the people who live in that district.
Yeah. Speaks to the relationships that he built, that you all built with him and his team. Sounds like a significant loss, not just in the grand scheme of what now we look at from the nation, but for that community and for you guys as well.
Yeah.
Alex, thank you so much for joining us. Alex Bell from ABC 10, and then Samantha Spinacci right here at 13 News Now. We appreciate both of you, and then also I'm sure, as I'm hearing from you, it's a tough day for the two of you as well. So we appreciate your time in speaking on this topic.
Of course.
Thank you.
Okay, so again, there you have it. Big news that is coming out. The President of the United States just speaking before House Republicans there at the Kennedy Center, saying that seven-term Congressman Doug LaMalfa has died. And you just heard from Samantha and Alex, just the overall impact that he has had in the California area, and then also the grand scheme of things, which when it comes to the national discourse and what happens with the majority in the House, those will be questions that will come later. But rightfully, Alex and Samantha speaking to the human side of things, this is a sad day for all who would know and interact with LaMalfa. Clearly, he had a huge support there in California.